Jumping back into the action now to go over a couple more games that were pretty impactful to where we are right now in the NFL season regarding the playoffs and teams jostling for a position here. I wanted to bring up the Bucs game and the Carolina Panthers game because it was pretty exciting for the build up to this game. Maybe you didn't think it was going to be that exciting because of the Panthers and obviously where the Bucs are right in their stage of their team building, but this one was very close, obviously by the score. And if you watched it, there was a moment right after the Panthers got to the end of the game and they scored that touchdown where you're thinking like this could be one of the massive victories that the Panthers get this year. They missed out just barely on the Chiefs, but this could be their moment. Obviously, it didn't go that way, but overall, the Buccaneers were really flirting with a defeat here to the Carolina Panthers. That would have definitely been a huge, just hit to their playoff chances. If they dropped the game to the Panthers, where there's going to be tougher games coming up, it would have definitely made their playoff chances just really disintegrate from that point on. And also, especially, there was a scary moment just for the Buccaneers in that third quarter where Baker Mayfield went down and there was some worry that it was an Achilles injury just based on how it looked. And Baker Mayfield even said it afterwards how he also thought it was his Achilles, but it just turned out to be that somebody actually just stepped on him and something like that. But, if you consider the loss and you consider the potential loss also of Baker Mayfield, that really would have been a catastrophic afternoon for the Buccaneers. But luckily, they came out at the end of it pretty much unscathed, but Baker Mayfield returned in that game and helped them get a gritty overtime victory over the Carolina Panthers. It was a 26-23 final score to secure back-to-back victories for the Buccaneers after coming off of their bye week, and now they sit with a 6-6 record, tied for first in the NFC South, whereas the Panthers fall to 3-9, but it certainly feels like something has clicked for them, and it could also be because Bryce Young now, like we just kind of finished talking about, has really looked a lot better since being benched, and we saw it in this game. We saw it against especially the Kansas City Chiefs and how, that defense is a lot better, I would say, than the Buccaneers defense. So the fact that Bryce was so close in that game to kind of orchestrating a victory, and the same thing in this game, I think it fills you with a lot of confidence if you're a Panthers fan, obviously, right? Not really caring too much about the wins and losses, right, because of the record. I thought that was a certain positive that you could take away from this if you, again, are a Panthers fan. Then some things that were interesting about this game that I kind of forgot was that Baker Mayfield actually, played for the Carolina Panthers, and with a win on Sunday, he now has a 4-0 record against his former team that cut him back in 2022. So that's an interesting piece of news that I kind of forgot about, because that was definitely not the most glamorous portion of Baker Mayfield's career. Obviously, one that I'm sure he tries to forget, but he definitely doesn't miss a chance to kind of stick it to his old team, certainly. He's still undefeated against them. Also for the Buccaneers, Bucky Irving, their rookie running back, ran for a career high in this game with 152 rushing yards that really helped them out and helped keep their offense, flowing, obviously, for the majority of the game. But it was really a devastating fumble in overtime by Chuba Hubbard that led the Buccaneers to getting the ball back and then hitting that game-winning field goal there in the end to just barely get out of this game with a victory, right? Because they actually got the ball first in overtime, and then they really didn't do much with it. I believe they punted it right back to the... I believe that's right. They punted it back to the Carolina Panthers, and then they were driving. Adam Thielen makes that crazy catch, and once you see a play like that, you're thinking, like, it feels like the energy, the whatever it may be, is on the Panthers side. And once they're, Adam Thielen's like snagging balls with one hand, just like that, and it feels like things are just falling their way. So at that point, I'm thinking, like, wow, like the Panthers are actually going to win this game for no reason at all. Really, the Buccaneers had all the reasons to win this game, but I was really starting feel down, but then of course you get that devastating Chuba Hubbard fumble. The Buccaneers get the ball back and they make no mistake about it and go down and win the game after, Chase McLaughlin hits that game-winning field goal. But overall in this game, also just looking at it from a macro standpoint, that's back-to-back 250 plus passing yards and 1 touchdown games for Bryce Young over the last couple of games. It's back-to-back games with 23 plus points for the Carolina Panthers as well. Again, despite the wins and losses, those are 2 major victories for an offense that was certainly struggling. They traded away Deontay Johnson, and it was really looking bad, quite honestly. They got, destroyed the first couple weeks of the season. So now to see that, and also where Bryce Young is definitely a huge positive for the Carolina Panthers. But also, in this game, Carolina had the lead at halftime, 10-13, and did a great job to kind of keep it close, and not only just keep it close in terms of score, but when you look at the Buccaneers and you look at Mike Evans, Rachaad White, Cade Otton, Bucky Irving, all these weapons that they have, even still without Chris Godwin, one of their best players, and then you look at the Panthers offense, right? No offense, but it's not the same level of talent. But for them to even stay with them during this game and even have the lead when late in the game there, I thought that's also an encouraging sign for this Carolina Panthers team. And on that final drive where I kind of briefly skimmed over it before, it was really exceptional because they got the ball with about 3 minutes left in the game, obviously, and they were down, I want to say, they were down 20-16. They were down 20-16 with about 3 minutes left, and Bryce Young in that offense orchestrated a 9-play, 60-yard drive to score a touchdown, no less, and leave about 30 seconds for the Buccaneers to try and go down and at least get a field goal to extend this game to overtime. And that's as perfect as you could draw it up, right? Because 3 minutes is still a lot of time, and you have to score a touchdown, so there's that natural response to get it done quickly. So it takes a level of maturity and great game planning and everything like that to get it so perfectly that you only leave the Buccaneers with 30 seconds left on the clock. You chewed up 2 minutes and 30 seconds of it through timeouts, through the 2-minute warning and everything. To get it down that low was definitely a huge credit to the Panthers. But obviously, the Buccaneers tied it, and credit to them too for getting down the field in like 30, 25 seconds as well. It's definitely not as easy as it looks, right? When some people might think that, oh, all you need is a field goal, right? You can just get there pretty quickly. It's not that easy. So that was still pretty awesome by the Buccaneers as well. And now you look at the aftermath of this game, right? Mainly for the Buccaneers, right? Are we sitting here thinking that they're going to win the NFC South? Because I have a hard time understanding who's going to win it, because now they're tied for first with the Atlanta Falcons for the NFC South title. After the Falcons lose their 3rd straight game in a row, both of them sit at 6-6, and Atlanta is still technically in first place because they won both matchups directly against the Buccaneers. But I don't think it's any surprise or any crazy statement to say that Atlanta is kind of treading water right now. They're sputtering right now, especially on offense, where that should have been the strength of this team, because it's definitely not their defense. Also with Kirk Cousins not looking great either. There's a lot of concern around him and the doubts about his mobility or the lack thereof. It's a bit worrying right now for the Falcons, and it feels like they're trending in the wrong way, right? The traffic is flowing this way. Everyone's heading to the playoffs. Everyone's trying to get better. They're going this way, where the Falcons, it seems like they're going that way a little bit. So that is a little bit worrying. But the Buccaneers, are they going to kind of piece it all together? Because, they almost lost this game. So does that give you even more confidence that they were able to, get into overtime and win the game overall, that they're just going to win it? Or are those games going to come back and bite them because they couldn't beat the Falcons in one of those head-to-head games? And then you kind of start looking at the schedule, right, a little bit. It's not too hard, but it's also like pretty close when you look at the upcoming opponents for the Falcons and also for the Buccaneers. The Falcons have a pretty big game coming up against the Vikings. Then they're going to travel to Las Vegas. They have the Giants at home. They travel to Washington, and then they close it out with the Panthers at home. Whereas the Buccaneers have a home game against the Raiders, travel to play the Chargers, travel to play the Dallas Cowboys, play the Panthers again at home, and then close it out with a home game against the Saints. So, I mean, it's not, I don't think maybe, how many of these teams? You got 3 playoff teams here, maybe. You have 3 maybe playoff teams for both of these teams that they're going to play, right? The Vikings, the Chargers, and the Commanders. And the Falcons play 2 of them, while the Buccaneers only play 1 of them. So I guess now looking at it, the Bucs definitely have an easier path to get there just because of the strength of schedule. But, the Cowboys, I'm not going to like hype up the Cowboys, but they've won a couple games now recently. The Bucs had some struggles with the Panthers. The Falcons, I don't know how I can really hype them up because they play the Vikings and they're not looking great. The Falcons aren't. They still play the Commanders away in Las Vegas. Could probably be trickier than it should be. I'm not sure. I'm not sure who I think is going to win. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the Buccaneers and 1 being the Falcons, and my decision on 1 to 10 being who I kind of favor right now, I would probably say I'm at about a 4 right now, just slightly favoring the Buccaneers, but I don't really know. I can't give a dead set answer because I think it's going to be super close, and it would suck for the Buccaneers if it would just come down to the head-to-head because, they'd be out of the playoffs probably. So, yeah, I mean, we've learned a little bit more about the NFC South now after these games, but it's going to get even more interesting as we go along. Steve Garza, I saw your question. I'm not ignoring it. I'm just going to go to a quick break, and when we return, I'm going to get to your question, and we're going to talk about the Seahawks and the Jets game this past weekend. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.